curfews are recognized for their very limited purposes in this country. Types of national disasters, tornadoes, something like that, where there has to be a curfew to protect the community from looting or whatever. But just a general curfew, the law is pretty well established that they'll be struck down.
The change in legislation that went through the Senate yesterday, and I understand was going through the House today, would make it clear that crimes like that, and then solicitation, conspiracy, and attempted commission of any of those crimes would also be considered violent. And I think it strengthens it, and it's unfortunate that those kind of questions arose, but I think in the long run we have a better product.
Type of crimes that are
if he was on the surface, it would push him that way. He's under and
Opponents of the prevailing wage law are blocking the passage of an emergency clause on a bill designed to send almost $99 million into prison funding. The wage law requires contractors of state projects to pay workers the prevailing wage of the area. Opponents say the law has forced the state to pay an additional $50 million in labor costs this year alone. Senator Wayne Wynn of Weatherford wants another vote on the issue before acting on the prison bill.
I hope they'll be willing to visit with us and try to give us this one vote, which I say is so important to us. And they say that the majority's already ruled. If that's the case, the majority doesn't want it, all they have to do is roll it out there. It wouldn't take 5 minutes, and if we don't have the votes, then we'll be happy.
The Senate is expected to reconvene next Tuesday. Some Senate members are pressing to lay the prevailing wage controversy to rest once and for all and get on to other business. Kevin Ogle, News 4.
Have you seen a caseworker?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and they talk to you about your food and clothing and all of that? Very good, okay?
The fire took everything from these people: food, clothing, and in some cases, hope. They were brought to the nearby Red Cross headquarters and given something to eat and drink. For all of them, it's time to start over because there's nothing waiting for them at what used to be their home.
Just a pair of pants I have on and a few things that were in my car. That's about it.
What are you going to do?
Well, I don't know. Just try to build everything back up. That's all I can do. Try to find an apartment. And I do have a job, which is a benefit there, and I can kind of slowly get back on my feet, I hope.
Yes, and see if one of the doctors there can pull your file and deal with it.
A large percentage of the apartment residents are elderly, and their loss of prescription medication is a major concern at this point. Red Cross officials say the wheels are now in motion to get the medicine as quickly as possible.
We do have a nurse here working with us. She is able to contact the doctor, verify the prescriptions, and then contact the pharmacy and make arrangements for a refilling of those prescriptions for the people.
Fuller expects to relocate most of the 60 apartment residents by tonight. For the time being, they'll be housed at the Salvation Army Dormitory on Southwest 4th and Hudson. After a few days' rest, they will begin looking for a place to call home. Kevin Ogle, News 4.
Before, it was essentially a felony or a crime of moral turpitude would get your license taken. Well, it's gone beyond that. Right now, crimes such as shoplifting, for example, dishonesty, theft, not a felony nor a crime of moral turpitude, you could have still worked as a security guard. Well, that's not right, and so that's no longer proper. Unjustified or unreasonable force, where now severe disciplinary action can be had upon a police officer who does that, even to the point of termination. Couldn't do anything to a private security guard.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered together here in the sight of God in the face of this company to join together this man and woman.
Like most wedding days, it was a time Bob McDaniel and his bride-to-be, Sherry Mitchell, would never forget. The outdoor ceremony was a must for this young couple. It took 3 tries before they could actually complete their vows, making them man and wife. Bad weather had forced earlier postponements. Now, a clear sky is always nice for an outdoor wedding, especially when the newlyweds plan to leave by way of a hot air balloon. Minister Jim Strickland then instantly became the couple's pilot. Mr. and Mrs. McDaniel's flying carriage drew lots of attention as it expanded right before their eyes. They felt taking off in a balloon would definitely top off the wedding and set them apart from the crowd.
Well, we figured we were only going to do it once, so we wanted to make it special and be kind of creative. A lot of fun.
We just wanted to do something different, something that we'd always remember. This is it.
A balloon wedding, strange, some might say, but these newlyweds feel when it's your special day, the sky's the limit. Ed Stewart, News 4 in Edmond.
This is the time of year when Oklahomans take off for the woods, but be especially careful of ticks when you're out walking under the trees and through tall grass this year. Last year, Oklahoma led the nation in the number of cases of Rocky Mountain spotted fever. There were 218 cases reported, and that's twice as many as were reported the year before. This state health lab is looking for evidence of Rocky Mountain spotted fever. It recommends any physician who suspects the disease to send blood samples to the lab to confirm its existence. So far, 20 cases have been confirmed in Oklahoma this year, and it is recommended that antibiotics be started immediately upon suspect of the disease, as the testing takes 2 weeks.
The incubation period is 3 to 14 days after you have a tick on you, and the symptoms are fever and headache and muscle aches. And about 3 days later, you develop a rash that begins on the extremities and spreads inward. And you can get real sick if you don't get treatment. But if you get prompt antibiotic therapy, then you don't get very ill. The disease doesn't go much past the fever and the headache.
The most common treatment for the disease is tetracycline, and the most common precaution is, if you get ticks on you, get them off quickly. It normally takes anywhere from 2 to 4 hours for a tick to embed itself in you. Use repellents to keep them away, and remember that ticks will be most prevalent in eastern and central Oklahoma. Terry Cook, News 4.
Under what they said was an increasingly strong message from constituents to end the session, the Senate coalition that had held up nearly $850 million in appropriations gave in today, saying it was better to give up the fight now to come back and fight another day.
Rather than continuing in what is fast becoming an attack on personalities and motives, that the people would be best served if we conclude our business and go home, and hopefully some survive to fight another day.
With that, and after several days of trying, the emergency clause passed, sending the money bills to the House for approval. But if quick action was expected, it did not happen that way. Many House members stood up to protest the way 7 different appropriation bills had been lumped together, and they wanted the bills sent back to committee to be separated so they could be voted on individually.
We're putting a lousy 4% into education, and we're putting almost as much money in new dollars into special projects for a certain few individuals out here on this House of Representatives floor.
But that move failed as well, a stormy end to one of the most difficult and controversial legislative sessions ever.
The no smoking light has been flicking off and on today. It appears now to be off, at least for the time being. The smokers are victorious tonight, but not without some tense moments this afternoon when the Civil Aeronautics Board decided to ban smoking on most U.S. flights. The non-smokers were jubilant over that news. The smokers, on the other hand, were somewhat less than accommodating.
I think it's ridiculous, because if you like to smoke, you should be able to. You know, you pay the same fare as anyone else. I had quit smoking for 8 years and came back, and I don't like really the fact that I have to be on the back of the plane just to smoke.
If the ban is eventually approved, airlines might install smoke detectors in lavatories to deter sneaky smokers.
Either they'll smoke in the seats and wait to be told to put it out, or they'll go smoke someplace where they can get behind a closed door like a lab.
And what will happen then?
Well, with the present system, not much.
With a smoke detector, a whole bunch. Still, no airline has plans to install them right now. And the Civil Aeronautics Board has no plans to enforce a smoking ban now either. But if they change their minds twice today, who knows what may happen tomorrow? This saga is not over. Dan Slocum, News 4.
E. Smith Denman and his son, State Representative Don Denman, were tried in February of this year on extortion charges. After listening to 10 days of testimony and spending 12 hours in deliberation, the jury told the judge they were hopelessly deadlocked. The elder Denman was scheduled to be retried next Monday, but this afternoon he was notified the conspiracy to commit extortion charge was being dismissed.
Obviously, that pleases me very much. It doesn't please me that I was charged with something I didn't do, and that it became very obvious as the trial was going on, to me at least, that I was caught up in a vendetta, a political vendetta against my son. I guess when you're in politics, there's always somebody around who wants to get you.
E. Smith Denman says he is a broken man, both physically and financially. The 74-year-old plans to spend the rest of his days trying to regain his health. Meanwhile, his son Don still faces the possibility of another trial. The defense lawyers say they will not enter a plea in the case. Kevin Ogle, News 4.
We will be running a risk. Somebody could get hurt. There could be an accident, a serious accident. Even working along the road, someone could get hurt. I personally think the pros outweigh the cons. I think we should go ahead and do it. But on the other hand, had I not advised the county commissioners of this possibility for liability, and a year or two from now someone brought an action, they'd be wondering why I hadn't told them.
It's called breakdancing, and the rage is sweeping the country. The idea is to move your body into positions that most people find completely impossible. And to make matters worse, it's all done to a disco beat. While these kids can really move, some can't move at all. Leukemia, multiple sclerosis, and heart disease make breakdancing an unattainable dream for hundreds of Oklahoma youngsters. This dance contest is sponsored by Children's Memorial Hospital, and the money is headed for several important projects.
We hope to raise over $1,000 here. We pulled in almost $1,000 yesterday, and we hope to just add to that today. And the money that we earn here today is going to go to children's medical research to help our good doctors in Oklahoma continue their research for our kids.
Get on the floor and move your feet down to the beat.
Of all the dancers here today, some got a savings bond to walk away. But some kids said, hey, what's that money for? We just came to see Bella Shaw. Children's Memorial is a big charity, and it all stays here in OKC. But remember that the research always needs more. I'm Kurt Autry. This is News 4.
When you look at maintenance and distribution, we don't maintain the hydrants. All we can do is flow and check them. If we find something bad, we can turn it in. So I think we're at the point of crossroads time where, we can either go on, put our own system in and become totally independent, or we're going to be facing this dogfight for, several years to come.
Directly to me. Secondly, I think we had a resignation last night. We don't need to recruit a lot of teachers from outside or from the colleges and universities, so I don't anticipate that being a major problem for next year. For 85, 86, if we need to recruit during that, for that span of time, I consider that a major problem.
Before the dinner began, Mr. Gaylord posed for the press with the beautiful award proudly displayed. He was presented the award by Larry Huff, the treasurer of the USOC. Press from Nashville and News 4 photographed the picture taking, and then it was time for the reception. Movie producers and executives from Opryland, USA, along with hundreds of notable Oklahomans, gathered outside the ballroom in the beautiful Opryland Hotel. Senator Boren was one representative of the Oklahoma congressional delegation, and other political figures like Cleta Deathridge Mitchell chatted with the crowd. A real crowd pleaser was Bruce Jenner, the former Olympic gold medalist. The Gaylords seemed to sparkle with every greeting they received. As the crowd moved to the main dining area, violinists serenaded the $250 a plate fundraisers for the Olympics. A 6-course dinner was followed by a flaming dessert, and when Mr. Gaylord received the award from the USOC, his comments were flavored with humility.
We really appreciate being adopted by Nashville. And Governor Lamar Alexander, those are very nice words of welcome to us, and we hope to live up to it. We realize we have a heritage here now, since we're adopted kids here in Tennessee. And we're going to go right along with that and do the very best we can. And we want Opryland to grow and become bigger and better. We're only in the top 10 best hotels in the country. We want to do better than that. We want to get up to the top 3 or maybe even the top.
The Tennesseans expressed gratitude to Oklahoma for sharing the Gaylords with them, and they hoped the Gaylords would think of Tennessee as another home. They said Ed Gaylord truly represented the spirit of America, a natural to become the first individual to receive such an award. The event ended with a spectacular Opryland production. Bella Shaw, News 4, in Nashville.
I still think it's extremely devastating. The number of deaths is unusually high. We're not accustomed to that in Oklahoma, flood and death, and we regret that very much. The state's share of matching these programs comes approximately to $2 million, and through the various efforts that we've already made, these expenditures, these funds will already be covered. The response of the munitions RDX possibility being located at McAllister is just one now. We're one of many cities being considered, but the program is also not finalized yet, so they can't make a decision on where the plant would be located, or the plants, it might be one or it might be more than one, until they really have worked up the whole program. So we're just trying to work with the Secretary of Army and his staff and trying to make sure that they know that the workforce at McAllister, the geographical location, is one that they could consider.
Denman and Simac, may I help you?
Things were busy at Don Denman's law office today. Denman's father and former alleged co-conspirator served as secretary. And Don Denman focused his attention on his neglected law practice. The weight of federal extortion and mail fraud charges have been lifted from the once powerful lawmaker's shoulders. The government dropped the charges in exchange for Denman's promise to resign from the state legislature. The former legislator says his experience gave him a $100,000 legal bill and a renewed interest in his defense law practice.
As a legislator, you're nothing but a target to those people. You're just somebody to shoot at. And as a lawyer, I've got the opportunity to go out and fight against them and try to keep them from doing to other people what they tried to do to me.
Denman says he won't run for future political office, but he's not getting out of politics. Denman says he'll help some Democrats with their political campaigns this fall. Scott Wallace, News 4, Northwest Oklahoma City.
The prices, as a matter of fact, went down by a penny yesterday, and I think the prices are going to stay like that. And we're having good business. There's nothing wrong with the supply or anything. We are getting plenty of gas. So I don't see any reason why supplies are not going to be like this.
Giant sparks in the sky, lightning. It occurs in mature thunderstorms when an electrical field develops, positive and negative charges separate, in the upper and lower parts of the clouds. As these charges build to about 1,000,000 volts per foot, an electrical current flows through the air, creating the lightning bolt that we see. This bolt heats the air to around 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The air expands so quickly it creates the booming sound wave called thunder. The sound travels 1 mile in 5 seconds. The West Coast has the fewest number, while here in the Midwest we see about 40 to 60 thunderstorm days a year. Here are some tips to reduce the risk of being hit by lightning. Seek shelter in a house or large building, automobile, low spot, or ravine. If you are outside, never stand under a tall tree, telephone pole, or on a hilltop. Stay away from open water, wire fences, and metal objects. And during a thunderstorm, avoid using the telephone.
You ever give me 10 pals?
We think the Court of Criminal Appeals is doing the right thing in proceeding in this manner right now, and very cautiously, because we don't want it remanded again and delayed any further.